The Western Frontier garrison is struggling to hold Bongo Island. Admiral Akira has assembled a small battalion at the island's southernmost tip. With it, he must secure the island.
You know, I've actually been looking at the files on the disc for any unused voice clips and things of that nature, and it turns out that the characters themselves were going to do the little briefings at the beginning of each level instead of the narrator, which I would have liked. You know, the narrator talks too much, in my opinion.
Enemy naval transports have been spotted nearby. They are about to storm our defensive naval guns. Join up with our mighty bazooka vets and protect them. Now, gather your troops and make your way to the naval guns. They must not be destroyed.
I don't know, man. It looks like those naval guns are handling themselves fairly well on their own. Of course, if a bomber shows up, we'll want the anti-air vehicle. Now, the interesting about this mission is at the start, there's another cutscene for some reason, even though we just started. You didn't really have to do that. I mean, I just had to walk into the next cutscene for it to start. Oh well, at least the camera will zoom in on the bazooka veterans' kilts. Yes, they have kilts. Even though I'm pretty sure that's not a British thing, but... oh well. They can design their countries any way they want to. I mean, at first I thought the Solar Empire was China, but it's closer to Japan than China. Anyhow, here come the bazooka veterans. If they destroy your anti-air vehicle, it's an instant game over. It's going to... mine got damaged here, but that doesn't matter because they can just pick up the jerry cannon and they'll be all better. You actually start this mission with the same battalion as you had at the end of the last mission, which is nice, but it doesn't really make all too much sense, I guess. Anyhow, here are our bazooka veterans, which are conveniently going to destroy the light tank in the cutscene, instead of letting us try the unit for ourselves. Now we can actually use them, and I'm trying to take control of a bazooka veteran here by highlighting its icon and holding A to switch to it, but then I realized, oh, you can't do that yet. You have to actually lock on to the unit that you want to switch to and then hold A. You can't switch to them by highlighting their icon and holding A until the game gives you the tutorial for that. You also can't change the camera until the game gives you the tutorial for that, which means that you can't change the camera at all in the first level. All this tutorial stuff and locking us out of... You know, the first game did that too, but it was only visible in the first level. Anyhow, you can change the camera with the C button, which is on the nunchuck. There are actually 3 different camera angles, one that zooms out farther than this, but I kind of like the second one because it's in between the two. The third camera angle is closer to that alternate camera angle you had in Battalion Wars 1. Anyhow, a bunch of boats are going to appear and try to land forces on the shoreline. You actually can destroy the boats before they land their forces, which I failed to do here because I'm pretty sure that the boat is invincible until it like reaches the sand part of the shore. The rest of them, however, are not. And the bazooka veterans do a very good job of destroying them, but you will want to avoid touching the naval transport because they will ram into you, and that causes damage. Unfortunately, I want to pick up those health packs, but they're in the water, which means I would have to swim for them. We all know how swimming typically works out. So the naval guns destroy one of the naval transports on their own, but you have to either take out the other one or wait for its things to land and then take it out. The bazooka veteran functions mostly the same as in Battalion Wars 1, except that it no longer suffers a damage penalty from firing at long range, which means it's very easy to have the naval transports destroyed by bazooka veteran alone. Of course, if you try to order your men to attack it and it's not close enough for them to shoot at it, then they will actually tell you that they can't shoot at it and refuse to do so. Now, if any of these naval transports actually land, there will be a short scene of the units exiting the naval transport, which you skip if the naval transport is destroyed. You'll want to do that if you're speedrunning. And I did try speedrunning some of the missions way back, because the game does now track, well, it tells you how much time you took in a level, so that's helpful if you're trying to get a good time. Now to take out this light tank. And I don't really need to, but I destroyed the boat, even though it had already landed its forces, and destroying it would be completely pointless. Now, about the boat I just destroyed, I have no way. Well, the light tank was about to come out, but I don't know how to describe what just happened with that boat. It just kind of looked weird. Anyhow, you see that the bazooka veterans are still good at taking out infantry if you fire it point blank with a charged shot. Now all that's left is the bomber, and I can finally change to my other units by highlighting the icon instead of locking onto them, but I don't need to. Just target the bomber, order the anti-air vehicle to attack, and then move on to the next gold star. You know, you guys really ought to mass produce those anti-air vehicles, because it looks like the Anglo Isles favor their bombers a lot. Now, this right here is the first, so far, of Battalion Wars 2's new features. There are now capturable facilities that will respawn units if they're captured. This one doesn't respawn anything as of yet. Facilities are something that is seriously underutilized in my opinion, but we'll be seeing more of them as the game goes on. Also, hey! The Western Frontier is actually actively participating in combat, as are allies. They do a much better job of helping us out than Tundra did in the first game, but hey. At least they're actually actively participating this time. Of course, they only have grunts and MG nests, which means that one simple little light tank is all it would take to destroy them all. You remember what I said about the enemy, the computer AI being stupid as long as they're the AI, and looking incredibly good when they're controlled by the player, because you're the player. You're smarter than the computer. At least I hope you are. I'm certainly not. I'm trying to destroy these light tanks. And of course you saw this light tank here on the mini-map before the cutscene started, but hey. Also, it appears that the enemy light tanks are invincible during cutscenes. That is... well, they're invincible as long as the game says they're invincible. So yeah, we really needed that light tank. My bazooka veterans were doing just fine on their own, thank you. And of course there's another bomber, which they should have just sent out first. I'm losing a couple of bazooka veterans here, which is probably not good for my technique score. So of course the frontier units don't join you, they just sit there and do absolutely nothing. We could kind of use their help, seeing as we're down a couple of bazooka veterans. Here is a helipad. We saw one of these in like one level in total in Battalion Wars 1, but they serve the same purpose. Activating it causes reinforcements to arrive. Of course, they're usually guarded. I don't see why the enemy can't use helipads, but I suppose if they could, that would be kind of unfair, because they have all of their men surrounding it, guarding it, trying to prevent the enemy from activating it and calling for reinforcements, instead of activating it themselves. And don't tell me it doesn't matter who activates it. I don't think the people who make helipads are that stupid. Of course, you can also only use helipads one whole time at all, so your reinforcements are still limited. Until we start seeing facilities that respawn your units for you, we are going to be limited in how many units we have for each level, and even when we do get to facilities, they only respawn one kind of unit at a time, so, or rather, you can't change what they respawn. It's set in stone from the beginning of the level, so we still have that problem, in my opinion, where you can't choose what kind of unit you take into each level. Which I think would be a good idea because it would add some replayability. I mean, you don't want each level to be exactly the same. But at this point, I'm just parroting what I said at the end of Battalion Wars 1. We've got to capture that dock, so let's get right to it. It's nothing but grunts, light tank, and maybe a bazooka veteran here, or two there. Of course, I'm silly and completely forgot about the air transports. As you know, if you shoot them out of the sky before they land, then you'll have less enemies to deal with. I do not think it matters to the power score whether you destroy the air transport or you take out the units after they've landed. Presumably, if you let the air transport get away, then that would hurt your power score.
Well done, Commander! We are victorious! These islands are in the hands of their rightful owners once again! Watch how the honorless enemy flees! We may have won this battle, but there are many more to come. The Solar Empire fights on!
I'm probably gonna get a bad score for that. Okay, that isn't too bad. An S rank is still an S rank, but usually I get 100, 100, and 100. In fact, that's my top score. Most annoyingly, however, the game only saves your your best time, if you get a better rank. So if you get 100, 100, 100, you're stuck.
The Anglo Isles are staging an assault on the Imperial Palace itself. If it falls, Empress Lei Ko shall be eternally shamed. The fate of the Solar Empire rests in her hands.
And by her hands, we mean the hands of her commander, because he's the guy doing all of the hard work. Funny how that works.
Commander, your mission is to defend the Imperial Palace from Colonel Windsor's invasion force. Rendezvous with the escort of assault vets en route to boost your combat effectiveness. You will find a helipad just beyond the shoreline. Call for reinforcements here. These enemy cover points will protect our foes from incoming fire. Flank them or destroy them on sight. I am landing a battalion of grunts and light tanks to assist in this endeavor. This is a matter of honor.
This is a matter of name-dropping each level at least once per level. Get used to that because they're going to do it a lot. So anyways, we have control of Solar Empire light tanks, and apparently they don't take very much damage at all from these Anglo light tanks or these Anglo bazooka veterans. I have a feeling that, well, let's just say that I don't like that I'm not exactly taking very much damage here. As I may or may not have mentioned before, they arbitrarily lessen the amount of damage that you take from enemies in each level to a certain degree. You'll notice that again, you'll notice that you're taking more and more damage as the game goes on, but I really don't like that because, you know, you should design each level without having any arbitrary handicaps like that. It's silly. So it's nothing but a bunch of light tanks and grunts for now. Maybe a bazooka veteran here or there. And activating that helipad brings forth some bazooka veterans. Hey, the enemy's attacking us with light tanks. That's really convenient. We can use those bazooka veterans right now, as a matter of fact. That's another thing that I actually don't like about this game, is that you'll notice that whenever the enemy is about to attack you with something, the characters will telegraph it. Like, they will tell you, send in the light tanks. And then the player thinks, oh, uh-oh, better send the bazooka veterans to the front line, because there's a bunch of tanks about to approach, because the guy just told me over the radio that he was going to do that. I can see my recording is having some sound issues, but I don't really care. Now, one thing that's really cool about this level is that you notice that it's raining, and I don't know if you can actually see. I can see, but those of you watching this on YouTube may or may not notice that the raindrops are actually hitting the screen, or the camera rather. And that is a really neat little effect. I really like that. It's noticeable, but it doesn't really hurt you in any way. Shame they don't do that with snow later on in the tundra levels, but, you know, I think that would hurt your vision a lot more. So that would be a pretty interesting level gimmick. We have assault veterans now. They have been nerfed, obviously. They're no longer as good against heavy tanks and things of that nature than they were in the first game. They're also not that great against air units either. But the Solar Empire Assault Veterans in particular have some really, really good attack range. Like, their bullet scope, like, they go so far before disappearing, it's really weird. I don't think that happens with other Assault Veterans, but I could be wrong. Hey look, enemy artillery units! And they're firing fruitlessly at the palace for some reason. We don't really have any units in the palace. There's 3 grunts near there, but that's pretty much it, so I don't see why you're aiming at that and not aiming at us. Of course, now that the cutscene's over, they are aiming at us. So again, the trick to dealing with artillery is to get in close as quickly as possible. But there are bazooka veterans, so if you want to approach quickly with tanks, you're going to have to watch for that. So let's throw in the assault veterans and maybe even the bazooka veterans as well. Now there's another artillery over there, and I wanted to lock onto it from here, but apparently you cannot do that. Oh, you can lock onto the HQ just fine, but not the artillery. There's some explosives next to that group of grunts if you want to deal with them quicker than I did. I just rushed through. Let's take out this second artillery unit. Should be simple enough. I'll just let the bazooka veterans and tanks and light tank deal with it on their own. They are very efficient at what they do. Here we are at the HQ. An HQ, as you would probably expect, is something that you must protect at all times, and is an instant game over if it gets captured. HQs don't respawn units all the time. There are a couple of missions where they do, but it almost never turns out to be useful. There's some MG nests here, but I can't load my grunts into the MG nests until Leiko gives a tutorial about it. I swear these missions are going to get more interesting in the future, guys. One thing that's always puzzled me about MG nests, though, is that you can load any infantry unit into an MG nest. I don't see why you would load anything other than a grunt into it, but I guess if you don't have any grunts... Oh wait, you always have grunts. Never mind then. I'd say sending in air transports to airdrop units is a lot better than just having the units pop in like they would in Battalion Wars 1. Now, one thing that you've got to be careful about with air transports is that if you happen to be speedrunning this level, like I've tried in the past, you might be outside the palace, like with your bazooka veterans and light tanks, taking out the units before they can even get in close. But that's also where the air transports land. And air transports are overpowered. If they land on top of your light tank, the tank is destroyed instantly. Yes. Air transports are overpowered. I guess that's sort of punishing you for trying to take out air transports fast. Oh, and the enemy commander here, he announces that it's going to be a while before the next wave comes in. That's a good thing to announce, buddy. So, now we can finally order our troops to guard the HQ. I don't see why we couldn't before. This is a new thing in Battalion Wars 2. You can now order troops to guard a facility, which they do a very efficient job doing. Actually, I think it's guard mode actually makes some of the scenarios in this game all too easy, because you can just, you don't have to worry about commanding your forces if you just send them to guard a facility and leave it at that. No need to deal with positioning your troops. No need to order them to attack specific units strategically. Nope, just send them all to guard a facility and hope that they survive. Anyhow, you can actually destroy these air transports with the bazooka veterans, as you might have first thought. Who needs anti-air vehicles, right? Which is good, because that air transport is carrying bazooka veterans, which, as you may have guessed, are one of the more dangerous units to be fighting against. Anyhow, this is pretty easy to do. Did anyone notice that sometimes the grunts drop their Nintendo DSs whenever they get destroyed?
We tried every trick in the book, and my boys still couldn't take that palace. I don't believe it!
We remain the rightful owners of the Imperial Palace. Your military strategy is without question, Commander.
Every trick in the book? Dude, I don't have an anti-air vehicle. Did you maybe think to try, I don't know, sending in some bombers? That would have ended me instantly. Come on, you guys, this isn't that hard to do. War is not a hard concept to grasp.